Hello and welcome to Zolt Photography. Today we're going to be talking about what is a prime lens. This is specifically to do with photography and videography. We'll cover a few points and I'll give you some information about that. What we'll do is I've got a few examples up today of lenses that will show you an example of what a prime lens is versus a non-prime lens. We'll cover the types of lenses available, why you would use a prime lens, give you some benefits and examples of that. But before I continue, I will just give you a quick overview of what I do and who I am. So I make videos about photography gear and talk to you about images and how to make yourself a better photographer. So I do things such as unboxings, gear reviews, mics and all sorts of things relating to photography and videography. If you haven't already subscribed, make sure to subscribe so you get notifications and are notified as soon as I go live. You can join me in the chat and ask me any questions. You can see it's a wide range of things I do. But let's get back onto topic and discuss what a prime lens is. So I've got some examples here that I'm going to talk you through. If I take you onto this view where you can see the actual lenses. So here is a prime lens, and this prime lens is a Canon lens. That's 100mm, and you can see it's quite, I would say, a light lens compared to an equivalent zoom lens. A zoom lens gives you different focal lengths. If you're not familiar with photography at all, I have actually got a whole series of videos that I did for learning photography, and those would be a good point to start. So what I'll do is I'll link you in the cards to that learn photography series, so that gives you a bit of background to lens and what different terms mean that we use in photography. So that would be a good start. But if you already have a basic understanding, then what I'm talking about here when we talk about focal length is, for example, this camera here you're looking at is currently set at its widest focal length, which is 24mm. If I was to show you another view, I hope I have set up. Okay, here we go. So in this camera here, this is a action camera and it's got a wider view, so it's closer to me, but you can see you're seeing a similar amount of window. If I can do that, if I do that and then do that, even though it's closer to me, it's actually giving me a wider view. So focal length refers to how much you see on the camera. So if I do something like that, that's closer to me, so it'll be a higher number of focal length. That's a crash course in focal length basically. But check out that video, I actually go into in more detail. But back to topic about what prime lens is. If I show you some examples like this is not a prime lens. The reason it's not a prime lens, firstly, it's got two units of measure there, 70mm and 200mm. It's actually got a range. It's a heavier lens. It's got a zoom feature where you can actually change between, look at this camera, 70, 100, 135, 200, that's the focal length. What happens there is the lens within the lens moves to that. That's right up onto an inside bit there. Because it's got multiple elements, there's more between the sensor of the camera back here, the front of the camera. If I put that one there, show you something that I always use, a 50mm, which is also a prime lens. You can see one piece all the way through. One piece all the way through. So that's a brief overview about lenses. But that's like the types of lenses. So I've shown you three examples there. 150mm, 100mm. Let me bring it back up to the top here. 50mm, 100mm, and then a 70 to 200mm. That's not a prime lens. These two are prime lenses. Yeah. So why use a prime lens? Which is a good question. The reason I would use a prime lens is, firstly, they tend to be lighter and smaller. which I can show you here. That mounted there is smaller and lighter because it's not got as much within the lens. It gives you sharper photos, and the reason for sharper photos is because there's less glass between you and the photo subject, so it's less elements. There's a single focal length, so every picture you take will look the same in terms of the setting. So for example, this fixed kind of view you're seeing will be the same. So if I had a fixed lens, every time I take a photo, I'll always look the same in the photo. Whereas on a zoom lens, you'd actually zoom in and zoom out. Then you would always look slightly different. I'll show you some examples of that just to make it more you can see it visually, because if you like photography, you might be more visual. Better image quality, we've talked about that, because there's less elements, smaller and lighter. Those are basically the points just there, kind of bullet points. What I'll do now is if I take you onto my screen and show you an example of some photos. So what you'll see here is this is my Flickr page, and I have some photos here where I did some testing of some prime lenses. This is a Canon prime lens sample. I did some photos. I actually did 2 videos about the best lenses to use if you're new to photography. I will link to those in the card, but here is an overview of that. So in this image you can see this character, South Park. I keep forgetting his name. Someone told me in the comments, but I've forgotten again. Let me know what his name is in the comments. Okay, so you can see this character is very sharp. Can you see that? You should be able to. Yeah, you should be able to see that. So you can see how sharp he is, but his background is all blurred out. So what you will find with prime lenses is they're very good at that. Give you really good quality images and throw the background out, so you get blurry images. You can also get the same thing with zoom lenses, which I do get with my professional lens, the 70-200. But it's not the same. If you use 2 lenses and take the picture at the same focal length, you will be able to tell. So you can see here there's some more closer up photos, and you can tell the difference between 100mm and 50 straight away, because if you see this image here, that's 100mm you'll see, and you see less around the subject, whereas a 50mm at the same distance you see more around him. That's what we refer to as focal length. Think of it as like a telescope. You're basically zooming in on someone. But I do go into that in more detail in the 2 videos that I'm going to link to for my photography series, the 100mm and the 50mm. So that's basically an overview to tell you what a prime lens is. I've shown you an example of a prime lens. You've seen 2 examples actually, because one is a 50mm on my camera and one is a 100mm. So I'm hoping that answers your question. It may not answer it entirely, but if you comment below, I'll be able to get back to you with some examples to give you more information about that. I'm hoping you found this video useful, and make sure to check out this video on the left, which YouTube thinks you should be watching, and the video on the right, which is the link to the Canon lenses that I talked about. If you haven't already subscribed, make sure to subscribe so you get notifications directly to you, and check me out on social media. Any questions, post them down below. I'll get back to you as soon as I can.